Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Break the Cycle with me, your host, Joshua Smith. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Friday evening. Thank you so much for choosing to start your weekend off with Break the Cycle. I can't tell you how much all the support you guys have been showing me lately means to me and my family. It's huge. Let's start off with some sponsors. Of course, we have Lorenzotti.coffee for all your delicious Italian coffee needs delivered directly to your door. Bring the taste of Italy home. Use BTC at checkout for a 10% discount. And my friend, my partner on the show, the coolest guy alive, TopLobster.com for all your wonderful graphic needs, including this Tower Gang shirt that I'm wearing tonight. Shout out to hashtag Tower Gang, doing the Lord's work against the Antichrist every day. Top Lobster the man. You can also join the Patreon, the Subscribe Star, or become a member of the YouTube channel and get into the private Discord channel where you can get new Top Lobster designs up to 2 weeks early before they go to general population at like a 30% discount. So we're talking like $12 t-shirts, super cheap hoodies, great hats, backpacks, all that stuff. And executive producers of the show, anthemplanning.com for all your emergency and crisis planning needs. Check them out today. See what they can do for your home, business, or personal life. They're doing great work, things that the government sucks at for a much cheaper price and much more efficiently. Guys, we have an awesome show for you tonight. I'm really excited. This is actually my second time interviewing this gentleman. When I first decided I was going to try and do a show several years ago, this was, I think, back in 2016 or maybe 2017. It must have been after the presidential election. I was with Think Liberty, and I got the honor of interviewing this man. And since then, I've actually stayed at his father's farm and hung out with him a little bit after his Senate campaign. He is the host of the KWS News Radio morning show in Jefferson City, Missouri. He is the owner of the Libertarian Republic, and one time he was hopeful to be the presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. He is Mr. Austin Petersen. How you doing today, sir?
Cheers. Very good. Thank you for that kind intro, and shout out to my friend Top Lobster, one of my top 5 favorite Twitter accounts. So,
oh man,
cheers.
We're clipping that for the Top Lobster. He's gonna love that, man. He's amazing. He hand draws everything. Hand drew your thumbnail. He's underpaid and overworked for this show. That's for sure.
Cheers. So, shout out to Top Lobster.
So what's up, man? What have you been up to these days? What's going on? What's all the Austin Petersen happenings?
Well, I think, people who kind of keep an eye on me on social media probably see there's been a kind of a weird mix lately of continuous liberty discussion and chats and, battles with status online. Whether they're national conservatives on the right or authoritarian Antifa leftists on the left, right? But, another portion of my personality has started to come out lately. And, as I have transitioned to more domestic life, I got engaged like yourself. Congratulations, by the way, Josh. And bought a home, engaged in property ownership. So, a lot of personal stuff, things that I kind of had put on hold, like during I won't call it the lost decade, but like the decade of liberty activism there, I really spent, every waking moment of my life doing libertarian activism. So now I have like an actual life, which makes me not a real libertarian.
Sure. No, no. I totally get
Just
it, man.
Kidding, man.
I totally get it. I spent, my 2 runs for chairman of the party. I traveled nonstop for almost 4 years. I went to like 40 states, and now I'm like sitting at home all domesticated. We cook dinner every night. I'm like, man, I used to eat on the road all the time, and it's so much different.
I have a healthy life. The pandemic's been weird, so everything has kind of been on the back burner. Some of the things that I would have been doing, in person, haven't been happening just because of how strange the last couple of years have been. But that's been pretty good for me, just because I used the pandemic to get healthy. Right. Like, I think I was, addicted to nicotine and, e-cigarettes and stuff when I first went into the pandemic. And, I listened to my local health officials, not Anthony Fauci, but my local health officials were always really honest about the kind of challenges that we would face from something like this. And it was things like, you need to exercise, you need to eat better, you need to get, physically healthy in order to fight this kind of a disease. The number one thing that you could do, they said, was to get healthy, get exercise. So I've really been doing that. And, Steffi, my fiance, and I have committed. Now we checked it the other day. It was like 11 straight months of martial arts training. and we're coming up on a year now, and she's getting ready to get her second belt, and I just have been doing a lot of things to kind of like take care of myself personally, and I feel so that way I feel good because I'm hitting middle age now, and I feel like a lot of contributions that I want to make to Liberty for the rest of my life, the next 40 years or what have you. Thanks, babe. Pizza.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of getting healthy, but
it's cauliflower crust. We get it. We know.
Yeah. I got years of freedom fighting left in me, and so I'm just trying right now to kind of like take care of some personal things, so I'll be more effective in the future.
Sure, absolutely. We already got some super chats coming in the chat. Thank you so much, Eric Dillard, $20 super chat. I appreciate you. He said he left the LP to work with AP and came back because of the work Mises is doing. He's also the guy who wasn't kissed by Gary Johnson on the Stossel debate. Nice.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eric. Appreciate that.
Lo-Fi Republican, thanks for the $5 shout out. He said, who does Austin like in the Missouri Senate race?
Ooh, that's a good question. I follow that pretty close, and I'll say I haven't made a decision, although I do like both of the top contenders in the U.S. Senate race. It is rare that you get to say that I actually like the top two candidates. One is like the insurgent, his name's Eric Greitens. He's the former governor of Missouri. He's kind of scandal plagued in that he had to step down a couple of years ago because he had sex with a mistress, tied her up in the basement, allegedly, got a bunch of heat, stepped down. Now he's trying to kind of like renew and revitalize himself. And I don't have that kind of level of scandal, but I can relate with, trying to like make a comeback and stuff. So I like him. He says everything right when it comes to questions I ask him about limited government, fiscal conservatism, right? To me nowadays, I think we really have to be beating the fiscal conservative drum just because everything that's happened as of the last couple of years with spending, and the fact that so many Republicans are now like openly anti-capitalist, that it's like I really try and hit the fiscal issues hard. Greitens is solid, but then like the actual kind of, you might say, establishment candidate who really kind of isn't, his name's Eric Schmidt. He's the Attorney General of Missouri. He's been really good on a lot of issues. He's been good on fiscal issues. He's been good on civil liberty issues. He's been good on things like cannabis. And so I don't know what's going to happen in that race, but I will say that like the top two contenders are not bad. They're certainly better than, the guy who, kicked my butt and became senator in 2018, who is really, is the leader of that, national conservative, populist movement that is, very strongly anti-libertarian. The other two guys who are running for Senate are not that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy because Hawley's done like 2 or 3 things that were okay, and then I was like, but why the attacks? You know what I mean? It's crazy.
He's so popular too that it's like it like hurts me to attack him or to criticize him because so many people really like him, and I'm on a conservative broadcasting network. So like when he does do something right, I'm like, oh, thank God I could say something nice today, right? Trumpeted from the heavens. People are like, Austin saying something nice about John. Like his staff like works in the Capitol, like a lot of them where I'm at. So like, and they listen to the show and stuff, and like, I can just tell that it kind of irks him that I don't give him much credit. And then when the Capitol stuff went down, he was getting blamed for all of that. I mean, that was January 6th was a weird time, man.
Yeah. There's a lot of funny jokes going around on Twitter right now that are killing me. The
it's
attack,
worse than 9/11.
Yeah, worse than the attack on Alderaan. That was a good one.
Worse than a Amy Schumer joke.
See, that's just unbelievable. I have Christy Merrick coming on my show at the end of the month. She's a female comedian, and the first question I'm going to ask her is, so are you as funny as a man? she's gonna hate it. That was so misogynistic. Everyone's gonna all over Twitter. Everyone's gonna be hating on me. A misogynist tomorrow. But you know what? Damn it, men should be men. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about January 6th, man. Hopefully they won't kick me off YouTube for it. But so where are your thoughts on the 6th?
I mean, like, if you go, I got some bans. I got some Facebook and Twitter. I mean, they were shutting me down left and right because I was laughing my ass off, man. It wasn't an insurgency for sure, but you know what I mean? Because it was like an insurgency would be armed and, trying to, actually harm members of Congress and stuff like that. But, it was kind of, for me, it was like a clown show. It was very much two groups of people that I don't agree with fighting each other. And you're kind of like, you bought a ticket to the clown show. And so you're going to watch, the circus, you're going to watch the clown show. I feel like the conspiracy theories and the QAnon types and all that kind of stuff have, been proliferating so much over the last several years that, like, some of the gripes that the protesters had were absolutely legitimate. It wasn't all about overturning a democratic election in my mind. A lot of the reasons why people were so angry and their anger had boiled over is because of the media and how the media had treated them. Nicholas Sandmann and what happened, with the Washington Post and that lawsuit, the coronavirus lockdowns and everything that had happened to people's businesses. I mean, that's what caused people to do like desperate things, because why would you put it past the left and the Democrats to cheat? I absolutely wouldn't, put it past it. Do people cheat in, elections in Haiti or Cuba or North Korea or Russia or things like that? Absolutely. Do you think that people probably tried to cheat here in the United States? Yeah, absolutely. I think there probably were pockets of that, all over the place. Do I believe that it actually, impacted the outcome of the election? Probably not, but I'm not unsympathetic to those arguments that were made by people simply because the Republican Party is the stupid party, but the Democrat Party is the evil party. Right. And so, you never turn your back on evil or never underestimate what they might do in order to enact their dastardly plans. So for me, the January 6th event was, I think, mostly a comedy show. And now it's still a comedy show because the Democrats are holding on to it like they're holding on to the idea that, Russia helped, and Putin helped Donald Trump win, which is, if for every QAnon conspiracy theory, there's a Democrat conspiracy theory that's 100 times stupider.
Sure. And fortunately for our entertainment, they tried to impeach the president over every single one of their conspiracy theories. So.
Right. Yeah.
I always talk about it. Quest Fanning, thanks for the shout out and the super chat. He said, just wanted to say hi. And also our friend Tams said hi too.
Yeah. Hey guys, Quest and Tams are awesome. Now, so for me, like when it comes to the question of impeachment, pretty much every president's done something that, could be considered impeachable. So somebody's like, oh, you think the president could be impeached for that? I'm like, yeah, probably not, but there's definitely a list of other things that could definitely be impeached for.
Sure, absolutely. And I've gotten a lot of hot water with libertarians because when they were doing these impeachment proceedings for Donald Trump, I was like, nah, I don't really care about any of this. And everyone's like, well, he needs to be impeached. They all kind of jumped on the Amash train, and I was all sure he needs to be impeached for war crimes.
Well, how about when he invoked the National Defense Authorization Act, which was blatant socialism?
Right. Yeah, definitely for me. I mean, every president pretty much in my lifetime could be impeached for war crimes, in my opinion. But it's, how libertarians are, which takes us to our next topic here, buddy. The Libertarian Party. We miss you.
Oh no.
Some of us do. Some of us do.
No, you don't.
Some of us do,
because I know I've been there, been long before you were there, Josh. I was there.
I know.
I was a faithful, diligent, member of the Libertarian Party since 2007, I think my card said, and was faithfully voted for its candidates. Was a loyal foot soldier, and I can promise you that as soon as I step foot back in the door, that the knives will be out in my back, and et tu Brute, and all of the same evil. And all of the same ineptitude, and all of the same hatred and backstabbing that happens in the main two parties happens in the Libertarian Party without the added benefit of actually winning an election from time to time.
Sure.
So I can deal with all those same evils in the Republican Party with the chance that a candidate I support might actually become, a congressman or a senator or an alderman or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I totally you left the party and there was a vacuum. Someone needed to be the heel, right? Someone needed to be the bad guy, as they would like to put it. And I
noticed you filled that very well.
Filled your spot very well, man. It's still going on to this day. These people are just ruthless. But the good thing is the Mises Caucus has grown exponentially. We now own. We don't own 20. We have 26 state boards that we own, or are at least very Mises friendly. Nick Sarwark has stopped giving donations to the National Party.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Andy Craig has left the party. All these people that hated you are gone.
Wow,
dude.
That's news to me.
We took the Nevada State Board, dude.
I heard that.
We swept the entire board.
But was Andy was he in Nevada? Where was Andy from?
Wisconsin.
Yeah, he's so annoying. Yeah. Oh man, you guys
when they
talk about addition through subtraction. Wow.
Yeah. So when they tried to unilaterally take the New Hampshire State Board away from the rightfully elected XCOM that was all Mises Caucus, they failed miserably. It was like they were desperate, so they were really sloppy about their shit. And when they failed to do that, Joe Bishop Hinchman resigned from national chair. We had one region rep for Region 8 stepped down. The region rep for Region 1 stepped down. They all cited racism and bigotry and me and Karen Ann Harlos and all this shit. And all these people just started leaving, and Nick Sarwark stopped donating to the National Party. I've
seen you guys from a distance just clawing each other's eyes out, and then you're like, you should come back, and I'm just like, give it like another couple years. You'll be like, wow, this is like a completely different Libertarian Party. What happened, man? I would feel bad if it came back in a couple of years after you guys had done all the hard work and stuff like that, and so I think I'll let you guys continue to do the good work you appear to be doing, and congratulations. I mean, I used to be friends with Joe Henchman when I was in DC. He and I got along really well, and I don't know if he was a Sarwark like character when he came into the LP or not. I mean, sometimes factions pit people against one another that wouldn't have been enemies in any other scenario. That's kind of one of the shitty things about politics, is that there are people who just for one reason or another, because they happen to support a candidate that you're opposing or whatever, all of a sudden you've made enemies with people that, whereas before you might have been friends. So I'm honestly kind of glad I've been gone for a while, just because there are people who I want to have healthy friendships with that, otherwise may not have happened if I had been embroiled in that controversy. So sure. It's been good to watch from afar, just, for my own mental health, but also for my personal relationships.
Yeah. And the probably the best thing to happen is the Pragmatist Caucus dissolved. It's gone. It's completely gone. Yeah.
It's awesome.
I know.
Man.
It just
wow.
keeps getting better every day.
I was thinking, man, and what a stupid thing to do a podcast on a Friday night when you just want to be partying. But it's a party. This is fun.
This is
cool to hear all this
shit.
Yeah,
you're drinking.
Thanks for telling me.
Yeah, of course, man. It's definitely changing, and everybody's like, oh, the membership's falling, and we're like, hey, shh, it's gonna go back up. Don't worry.
Right. Well, just picture what would happen if a bunch of racists quit the party, and you can understand how we might feel. We'd be like, oh, look, all of those losers and assholes are leaving. That's kind of how we feel right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Eric Dillard, thanks for the $5 super chat. He said William Henry Harrison probably didn't do anything worth impeaching.
Yeah, because he died first week in office. Lol. That reminds me of my libertarian joke. Sometimes it gets people to laugh. Other times people look at me like I'm weird. But what got the United States out of the Great Depression?
Are you
FDR finally fucking died?
Oh, sure, yeah. I thought you were just gonna give the punchline. I didn't want to answer the joke.
No. It's just a libertarian joke.
Yeah. No, absolutely. FDR is just some people want to go back in time and kill Hitler. Some of us want to go back and kill FDR. You know what I mean?
You probably do better with Woodrow Wilson, because then there might be no FDR.
Sure. That's absolutely true, man. So let's talk about COVID. Because why not?
Yeah. Thank God we live in the Midwest, where, we don't have the kinds of mask mandates. Our poor friends who live in LA County going back under mask mandates. The last year has been like one of the most authoritarian years I've seen in my lifetime. And, certainly it must have been one of the most widespread authoritarian plagues that we've seen in American history since perhaps the time that FDR put Japanese in camps.
Sure.
Maybe since slavery. Probably maybe the greatest crime against humanity inflicted by a government on its people since slavery in the Americas. And I'm not saying it was worse than that, but I'm saying that it was certainly it certainly has been to that level of egregiousness. Arresting surfers in the ocean who are out there alone with a clear understanding of how infectious diseases work by even even a middle schooler understands, infectious disease, doesn't spread by surfers being out on the ocean alone, right? It was the opportunity of a lifetime for people with tyrannical impulses in government. I watched Kristi Noem, governor of South Dakota's speech at CPAC, I think it was last weekend, and she was talking about how so many of these Republican governors and legislators are trying to rewrite their records over COVID-19 and how they behaved over the last year. And that's absolutely true because, when the dust cleared and the fear started to settle and the fear mongering, didn't have the same effect that it did back in, March of, 2020, people started to realize how ridiculous they behaved, right? And how, people like Gavin Newsom and Andrew Cuomo and the roles they played in the deaths of their own citizens. It is, to me, we always have tests of true libertarianism, but really, is there any truer test of your libertarianism than if you fought against lockdowns and fought against COVID mandates? It did get down to the nitty gritty question of, deontological libertarianism, natural rights libertarianism versus strict utilitarian libertarianism. And, because the question, of course, lies with, if you have an infectious disease, to what degree an amount of risk are you allowed to inflict that on the community, if you have an infectious disease, right? And you can apply that question to many things. For example, HIV/AIDS, right? Some people think, if you knowingly infect someone with HIV, then that could be considered, at least a minimum, a form of assault, or some people even say you should be charged with attempted murder, right? As if you say you didn't inform a partner if you had HIV/AIDS, right? So when it comes down to the nitty gritty, right? The court system, the question of how to judge someone's behavior, whether they're criminally negligent when they have an infectious disease versus assuming everyone has the disease and treating them all like criminals, it presents quite an interesting challenge to libertarian philosophy. It gets down to the base question of property rights, and you could even compare it, for example, to the drunk driving question, right? And that's sometimes a debate amongst like the anarchist community versus the minarchist community, whether or not drunk driving should be illegal, right? Because the question is, how much risk are you allowed to take with another person's life, right? If you have COVID-19, if it's confirmed, let's say you had you're confirmed, you took the test, you absolutely 100% for whatever reason, we have a perfect test, you have COVID-19. Can you just go out and walk freely in a grocery store, or go get on an airplane or something like that? Or can you go get on a cruise, right? Or should a cruise have the authority to say, I want to see a proof of vaccination before you get on this boat? And that question divides conservatives. It divides libertarians. I mean, it doesn't divide Democrats and liberals because they're always like, whatever's the most authoritarian answer is always the correct one. But for people like us, those are more difficult questions that don't have easy answers. Everybody thinks they have easy answers to questions like that, but there are none.
Sure. So I live in a state where they made the mask mandate illegal. Businesses are no longer allowed to mandate masks here. She's now outlawed any type of COVID vaccine passports here completely. She basically did what Florida did, Kim Reynolds, and we have like zero new cases. Like it's over, right? Like it's almost over in Iowa. Is Missouri like that too? I mean, is Missouri?
No, we're ate up with it, man. They're stacking bodies here. We got one of the lowest vaccination rates in the country. For us, COVID is over, but we've got people just, dying from it left and right here where I live in mid-Missouri. It's still very real, still very dangerous. And, my thing is that, like, I've always advocated for bodily sovereignty. Nobody should be forced to take the vaccine, but it's just like a lot of other things with libertarianism. Just because I think something, you can do something doesn't mean you should, right? For people who are senior citizens who are, of advanced age or who have respiratory diseases, for example, even the most conservative, hardcore conservative doctors that I speak to recommend it at a minimum for those age groups. What about people like, teenagers or kids? Well, that the science doesn't say that they should, even though the CDC does, right? But, the government agencies are always going to be, more cautious, because they're incentivized to be more cautious than, maybe an individual or another institution might be. The local health agencies have been way better than the national health agencies or even the state health agencies. So like county health agencies, if you look at them piecemeal, many of them have done a very good job responding to the pandemic with, just good information and no mandates. And those to me have been the ones where if you look at conservative districts that have conservative leadership or libertarian, leaning leadership, I might say, like where I live in Cole County, they have not been authoritarians, which has earned my trust, and I believe the trust of the community, and people have been more willing to comply than in other areas where they have been more authoritarian. So I really feel like the more heavy hand you enact on things, the more it backfires. And because the government has been so inept over the last year, and because typically people, they feel their politics or their policies, right? If their tribe is signaling we're anti-vaccine, we're against the vaccine, then they feel they have to, go along with that, or they're like, if I get the vaccine, I'm a pussy, all right. So that complicates things. But overall, the United States has done, if you compare this to pandemics in history, this is the best any country has ever performed, other than the mandates and all this stuff, in terms of, just epidemiological, just the fight against COVID-19 itself. No nation in history has ever responded so well in fighting a pandemic than the United States in 2021. I've done comparisons to the Spanish flu of 1918, the Black Plague pandemics. I've looked at smallpox. That was a 30% mortality rate during the American Revolution. George Washington mandated smallpox vaccination for people who were in Valley Forge. This was a big topic of discussion recently. Liberals were saying, George Washington mandated vaccines. Well, yeah, he mandated it for the military, not the people. They didn't go door to door sending out the colonial army to go door to door to vaccinate everybody. They vaccinated the people who needed to be vaccinated. Those were people who were in close quarters and in trenches fighting Hessians in Trenton, New Jersey, right? So, unfortunately, people aren't able to cherry pick and to look at things from a piecemeal approach, which is what you need to do for things like a pandemic. We all are sort of responding to it the same way we respond to a debate of pro-Trump, anti-Trump, pro Gavin Newsom, anti-Gavin Newsom, rather than sort of saying even the worst person in the world that can be right about something every once in a while, right? Even Anthony Fauci, as much as I hate him and think he should resign and go to Guantanamo Bay, is right about things sometimes, right? So just because the CDC says it doesn't mean it's wrong. Do I tend to believe that if the CDC says it, it's probably wrong? Yeah. But I'm not going to completely dismiss everything they say just because I want to ensure that I'm being logically consistent. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I get that. And I tend to agree mostly. I obviously do not agree almost at all with your Gavin Newsom being right on anything ever. But hey, I get it.
It's like he drinks water. Water's bad. It's terrible for you, right? People are very, very much into bifurcated thinking. It's this or it's that. There's no nuance or shades of gray. And people are really bad at changing their minds. But a pandemic is the kind of thing where you have to be willing to change your mind if new information contradicts what you believed yesterday. Because as every study comes out and says something, it's all just buttressing up the hypothesis to give the hypothesis credit, right? To give the idea credit, rather than this study says it, so it's done, case closed, that's the answer. But that's not how science works. Science is constantly evolving, and we should be willing and able to change our minds based on new information that comes in.
Yeah,
but most people can't do that.
The science is settled has always been one of those comments that I'm just like, you know that's not how science works, right? Like,
right.
It's just not how it works.
It's always a debate. It's always a debate. There are some things that are closer to that than others, like the theory of gravity, or the germ theory of disease, right? That's people are, oh, well, that's just a theory, right? Well, yeah, but I mean, if something comes along to discredit that idea, I'm curious to hear that.
Sure.
I want to hear more about it. As much as I'm a fan of vaccines, I didn't stray away from reporting what was going on with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine on my show, right? I wanted people to have that information and to say, hey, listen, this is what we're finding out today. Even if, last week I was like, well, here's how you go get, your vaccine in our local community, et cetera, et cetera. It's one of those things that you got to have humility to a degree, and that's what Anthony Fauci doesn't have.
True.
Right? And that's what people like Biden and Kamala Harris, people like that, they don't have any humility whatsoever. They are gods in their own minds. And so every proclamation that they make from on high is the honest truth. Did you see that Australian official where she was like, we will be your one source of truth. Continue to seek us. Don't believe anything else. And it's like, crikey, what the fuck is wrong with Australians?
Yeah, they're really they must have got tired of throwing shrimps on the Barbie, man, because they get like one case and they lock down the city every time. And it's like we're probably likely to never actually get rid of COVID. You know what I mean?
Oh no, it's now, it's like the flu now. Yeah. It is going to be now a yearly occurrence where we will have COVID-19 now. Our immune systems will eventually get better at fighting it, but it's, when we go back and look back at all of history of life, viruses have been, some scientists actually believe that viruses predate life itself, which kind of like blows your mind if you think about it, because you're like, how could something that is like a parasite that has to have another host to live, how could it have existed before, cellular life that exists? How could that have happened, right? So viruses are a mystery that are at least as old as life itself. And, questions that we won't know the answer to in our lifetime, are unfolding before us. So, it's a fascinating area of study, but it's probably one of the least understood in the world.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Virology is always changing, always evolving, and there's no doubt about that. Thanks to Reed Coverdale from the Naturalist Capitalist for the $5 super chat. He said, looks like Austin's trying to outdo me on the mustache game.
Oh, yeah. It was Reed's inspiration that brought me to this beautiful mustache today.
Top Lobster, thanks for the $5 shout out. He said, Yankees versus Sox canceled due to COVID. All players have been vaccinated, though. Curious.
People are acting like that's a big deal, that people who got vaccinated got COVID. But ever since the very beginning of the pandemic and when the vaccines were being developed, we were told by health officials that everybody's going to get exposed and everybody's likely to contract it. Some people will be able to contract it and then not have symptoms. So you'll be like, oh, well, I never had COVID-19. Well, maybe you did, but you just didn't know that you had it. And maybe you passed it on to your family and you didn't know you passed it on to your family. But there have also been people who had COVID-19. My friend Brandon, for example, he got infected with COVID-19 and now he's infected with it again. So you can get COVID-19 and you can get it again. But this is a statistic that came from my local hospital administration and the head doctor. 99% of the people who are dying from COVID-19 in our hospitals are the unvaccinated. So the vaccine was not going to be a silver bullet that would prevent you from getting COVID-19. What the vaccine will do is it will prevent you from experiencing the most severe complications from COVID-19. It prevents hospitalization in a majority of instances, but it won't completely fully protect you. I mean, nothing can completely fully protect you. Life's going to kill us all. But I think people want the vaccine to not be effective so that they can, be right. But I want the vaccine to be effective because honestly, I think a lot of the anti-vaxxer stuff comes from foreign intelligence agencies. I know for a fact that China is insanely jealous, and Russia as well, insanely jealous of the United States' ability to produce vaccines. I believe that one of the reasons Cubans are pissed and rebelling in the streets is not just communism. Two things can be true at once, by the way, that they are absolutely pissed at communism, but they're probably pissed that their government sucks so much and their country sucks so much that they can't develop a good working vaccine and get it distributed to their people. We here in the United States, we can distribute the vaccine, but nobody wants it, so it's like Russia, I don't know if you heard the story, like Putin's daughter got the vaccine that they developed before the United States one rolled off the line. And that headline sort of like, was underreported, but it was bullshit. Of course they didn't develop that. Of course his daughter didn't get injected with some random, vaccine that they tried before the United States did. We developed the vaccine. We developed it faster than anybody else. And I believe that foreign intelligence agencies, they know for a fact Americans love conspiracy theories. And, whether it's the FSB in Russia or whatever the Xinhua intelligence agency is, they absolutely spread anti-vaxxer information here in the United States in order to undermine trust in health officials here in the United States. Not that health officials don't do their job for them in many ways, but you can't forget a lot of times that many of the conspiracy theories that are circulating are what they call during the Cold War active measures, and foreign intelligence agencies spreading disinformation. It's not just the China news agency on Twitter, but a lot of times, working in mainstream news agencies, I can tell you that, press releases that come from governments or from non-governmental organizations make their way into the newscasts without many times even the reporters knowing that they're reading foreign intelligence.
Sure.
Or foreign brainwashing, essentially.
I can't remember who I had on recently that was talking about Washington, D.C. and how some of our intelligence agencies actually get their talking points from the news as well, which is just, it's so ass backwards here in this country.
Oh, yeah. Well,
kind of stuff.
Missouri we just passed a bill, the Second Amendment Preservation Act. And this was essentially us resisting commandeering federal having to enforce federal laws for our own officers here, right? And the Department of Justice wrote this legal brief saying, you can't do this, Missouri. This is unconstitutional. The Supremacy Clause has stepped in here. They had written their press release based on articles that were written here in Missouri that were blatantly false or were completely incorrect. They didn't actually read the bill to write their press release. So the Department of Justice wasn't doing their homework. They were reading it off of reporters in Missouri who just, they're all makeup and no firearms. You know what I mean? They've just never held a gun. They know nothing about guns. They know nothing about the law. They heard it was nullification from their, commie friend, and they wrote the article that it was nullification. And everybody believed it because they don't read the bill either,
Sure. Do you think so? Let's get back to just one more topic on the COVID vaccines, because you obviously trust them much more than I do. Obviously, you
trust who?
You obviously trust the vaccines much more than I do, as far as the COVID vaccine.
But maybe I don't know how you'd measure that, but maybe.
Yeah. So, do you think is this the first vaccine that has been manufactured that you can still get the illness with the vaccine?
I don't think so.
I mean, besides
you get the flu vaccine, you can still get the flu, right?
Well, yeah, as long as it's a different kind of strain than you've been vaccinated for. Yeah.
Not necessarily. Sometimes the flu vaccine, it can be the variant that you had, but the vaccine that you had was only maybe 30% effective that year against it. So it's definitely not the first flu vaccine that has not been able to prevent infection. This is the first vaccine that we've had that was based off mRNA technology. Sure. And mRNA technology itself is not new. And people who call it gene therapy are doing themselves a disservice because it's definitely not gene therapy. It does not alter the gene. And, I'm a musical theater major. Where am I getting this information? Well, I'm getting it from a respiratory therapist, and I'm getting it from our local county health officials who are epidemiologists or who have an epidemiological background, who are not, authoritarians. Many of them are conservatives. And as I understand how gene therapy works, this is not a form of gene therapy because it does not alter the underlying DNA. It interacts with the RNA, not the DNA. And so it's not gene therapy. But people are looking for an excuse to justify, I think people love fear. I think people love fear more than they love sex. I think people love fear more than they love food. I think people live on fear. People in the modern age in 2021 are so effing bored that fear is the only emotion that gives their lives meaning, because they are driving in their Teslas, drinking their big gulps and eating French fries and blowing up to 900 pounds. And they say they care about their health and they do the opposite, right? Fear is something that is a currency. It's a commodity. You can trade fear with people, and it's the kind of thing where there's an economy of fear, and it's born in the media, because there's a financial incentive to spread fear. Media agencies got unbelievable paydays from the pandemic because it was, all fear. I mean, I would wager a guess that if you were to go back and look at the profitability of the first and second and third quarters of 2020, that media agencies probably made more money in those 3 quarters than they had made in years and years before, because it was easy to sell the fear of COVID-19. And if you try, it's kind of like that Plato's allegory of the cave. If you try and take people's fear away from them, tell them, well, actually things aren't too bad. Actually, this is a good thing, or, actually you might want to look on the bright side here. They might laugh at you. They might think, they say, you're just stupid. You're brainwashed. But they also might even, try and cancel you. And in some extreme cases, I remember one time I was debating at PorcFest. I remember one specific, it was some ANCAP, that they might even try and kill you. And I remember a person tried to violently attack me because I was debunking vaccine conspiracy theories then at the time. I was debunking 9/11 conspiracies. I was debunking John F. Kennedy, assassination, multiple shooter theory conspiracies. I'm a big fan I love conspiracies because to me, they're like a puzzle, and I like to break them down and, find out what's true and what's not. But if you try and take people's fear away from them, if you try and tell them that actually 9/11 was perpetrated by Muslim terrorists, or if you use logic like, well, if 9/11 was an inside job, then that means it wasn't blowback and Ron Paul is a liar, then they get angry because people love their fear. They feed on the fear. Libertarians feed on fear. Fear is one of our biggest currencies. Conservatives feed on fear. It's one of their biggest currencies. Democrats feed on fear. Liberals, communists. Fear is probably the most valuable commodity in the American economy.
Yeah. No, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think, obviously I'm extremely skeptical of everything, but that's just because I'm tired of watching our government shit on it.
It's totally fine.
Yeah.
I think it's good to be skeptical. I think people like Anthony Fauci have bred mistrust in the vaccine by the way that they've behaved. And I think that, unfortunately, because we're so tribal nowadays, people just, they've got a virtue signal to their tribe, their in-group, or they feel like they have nothing.
Well, I was just saying the other day, I think that the overall trust in just the healthcare profession is going to be at an all-time low for a long time because of how much misinformation from both sides came out on all this shit. I mean, it's just,
and that's bad.
Yeah,
that's not good. I don't think that's good.
Right.
I think distrust in government officials is good.
Sure.
That's healthy and that's wise. But not trusting, when people are angry at my local hospital administrator because he's like, saying that COVID is real and not a hoax perpetrated by us on the communist Chinese or whatever. It's like, that's not helping us. You know what I mean? If the dancing nurses on TikTok, that's not helping us, right? That's making people less likely to seek care when they need it.
Sure. Absolutely. We got some more super chats here. Let's see. Where are we at? Sorry, I'm going back, guys. Quest.
No, you're fine.
Quest, thanks for another $5 super chat. He said he loves how the socialized medicine countries are depending on the USA for decent vaccines. What did they come up with? AstraZeneca is going to give you the palsy.
Yeah, but I mean, again, when people got really angry on Twitter when I talked about how jealous the Chinese were of our capability to produce the vaccine, right? They produced the virus and we were able to produce the vaccine. Like they literally had the COVID-19 there in the lab and weren't able to produce the, a functional vaccine to the virus that they had samples on for, we don't know now how many years, but I'm sure we'll find out, in the ensuing decades, depending on how many, records they burned at the Wuhan lab or whatever. But,
Sure. Reed Coverdale, thanks for another $10 super chat. He said he thinks Austin will agree with him as another godless heathen, but science is starting to be looked at more like a religion as of late. No questions allowed.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. But, it's funny because, whenever something extremely negative like this happens, you get the kind of balloon effect, where you have like kind of a loose balloon and you squeeze it and it pops out the other side. Like I have seen so many people who you would never expect to be red-pilled in the last year because of this. People who I have been working on for years to look into libertarian politics. People who called me a brainwashed, dogma sucking, libertarian for years were saying, Austin, like this has really red pilled me, and like my brother is one of them, he's never voted for, a Republican in his life. He quit the Democratic Party last year and I've always been a soft liberal. He has been. And it's like, it's exciting to see. So I mean, there's bad out there, but I'm the type of person who's always perpetually looking for the silver linings in the clouds. So, more people have woken up because of that. So there's some good things that have come out of it too.
Yeah, I think the craziest thing for me, I was talking about this the other day. We've got the left now cheering on corporations and the end of small business, and we have the right cheering on holistic organic care. And I'm going, what happened here? This is insane.
Well,
I can't believe it.
That right there ought to tell you right now that again, it's politics is less about ideas and more about expediency and tribes, right? You probably have had lots of conversation. People understand the concept of, supporting the tribe, whatever is good for the tribe is, whatever I support and who I identify with, and I virtue signal to the tribe, et cetera, et cetera. We could go on for that for hours. But another thing that is really disheartening and challenging is the simple fact that people will support whatever it is politically expedient for them to support at the time, even if it contradicts everything that they believe 10 minutes ago. And that is unfortunate because for people like ourselves who have principles that we dearly admire and hold on to through thick or thin, that makes us very much loners in this universe. People who have consistent principles who carry through, despite no matter what the storm is. That's not the majority of people. That's a very, very small minority of people.
Sure. Matthew Mahler, I never know how to say that. That is a name I haven't heard in 54 years.
Mahler.
Yeah. Thank you for the $10 super chat. He said he's just here for the karaoke.
All right. Nice. Yeah. Thanks. Hey, Matt.
By the way,
wedding invitation should be coming soon.
Yeah, I like Matt. I was friends with him on Facebook, and then I haven't seen him in a long time because Facebook banned me back in October. But I am back on Facebook, baby. Woo!
Mahler is like one of the funniest libertarians I've ever known, and he's also like the scariest. Like,
yeah, he's a pretty scary looking
sometimes
dude.
He looks at you like with a beard, like the eyes like this, and he's kind of like, you don't know if he's gonna like rip you limb from limb because he's gigantic, but definitely somebody you want on your side on a bar fight.
Yeah, it's a good guy. I like him. I was a big fan of him back in the day. He's definitely one of those people that will tell you exactly what's on his mind.
Yeah.
Almighty Beach, thanks for the $5 shout out. He said, Austin, who's your favorite economist? You better say Rothbard. You better say Mises. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I think, 5 years ago, I would have said Hayek. No questions asked. Probably still Hayek, but more and more I'm really appreciating Henry Hazlitt these days.
Hazlitt's the big red pill, I think. You can red pill so many people with economics.
It's just
in one lesson.
Economics in one lesson is just one of those things that it's just Hayek is not as accessible. Mises is not. Böhm-Bawerk, Schumpeter, Rothbard. I mean, those are not accessible. But when you read Hazlitt, it's one of those things that you can share with friends, and they'll be like, oh, wow, these are, this is really accessible. Bastiat is good, but he wasn't like an economist as we understand it. I don't know if economists as a profession really existed in the late 1700s,
Sure.
early 1800s, but so I think, at the moment, I'd say Hazlitt.
Yeah. Nice. So let's address the elephant in the room before we get off here. Okay. I mean, we could have done it in the exclusive chat. There's an exclusive chat for 10 to 20 minutes after this. We could have done it there, but let's do it here publicly. Let's talk about the nuke pill, Austin. Okay.
The nuke pill.
The nuke pill.
I'm about to nuke pill some sons of bitches here.
You have
go all Hiroshima on your ass.
You have been in probably more arguments online about your support of the A-bombs in World War II than maybe anybody in the world of all time. So can you clarify why it is that you support it? You think that was
I know that upsets you, Josh. I remember when
we got into it.
I remember when you sent me the Twitter gif of like the little black kid crying with a little tear on his face. Oh, Austin, how could you? How dare you, right? And there's a lot of different ways to look at this. We could, argue about the nitty-gritty details of the history, and trust me, there's nothing more I would love than to go through the minute by minute, hour by hour decision-making process of Harry S. Truman, about the behavior of the Imperial Japanese and, the rape of Nanking, the Bataan Death March. I would love to go through all of that. So please throw any question about, 1945 my way, because I'm happy to talk about it. However, I will simply say that, one, the question is, do you agree with Murray Rothbard that some weapons should be banned? Right? Murray Rothbard thinks that some weapons should be banned, and I think banning weapons is a dumb idea. I think it's not an effective policy, and Murray Rothbard advocated for nuclear weapons to be banned. And the reason why is because a nuclear weapon, like a biological weapon, is an unstable weapon. It's a form of weapon that requires constant maintenance, right? But while an AR-15 is not an unstable weapon, it will never go off just sitting in your office. It is the kind of weapon that can commit the same types of acts that a nuclear weapon could create, which is the thing that outrages libertarians the most, which is what is called collateral damage. And the big picture question you have to ask first is, are the laws of war different from the laws of peace? A true anarchist would probably say no, that the laws that there are no separate rules or laws when conflict is engaged. You have to obey the exact same laws that you would when you were in peacetime. Okay, I can accept that and understand that. This is a pacifist viewpoint, and that's fine. There are libertarians who are pacifists. I absolutely believe that that pacifism is a form of libertarianism, but it's not the only form of libertarianism, because pacifism is not "don't tread on me." Pacifism means you turn the other cheek, right? Pacifism means that if you are attacked, you will not fight back. That is the technical, literal definition of pacifism. Okay, look it up in any dictionary. That's what pacifism means, right? So the question is to what extent should we be allowed as an individual or a collective to use weapons which have the capability of inflicting collateral damage? Murray Rothbard argued that because nuclear weapons can inflict such massive collateral damage, they should not be allowed, meaning that these weapons should be banned. Well, an AR-15, which is a very powerful rifle compared to a .22, can inflict collateral damage. If I am in my home and I'm defending my own private property and I fire my AR-15, it's strong enough to go through the walls. If I'm shooting a .556 versus a .223, or so like a heavier round, or a .308, it could absolutely cause collateral damage. Now, in peacetime, I'm responsible for every shot that goes out of the barrel of my gun, but in wartime, I'm not. And the reason why is because in order for soldiers to do their job, to defend the Capitol or to attack the Capitol, right? Collateral damage is part of the program. Even the most hardcore hero to anarcho-capitalists in the Libertarian Party, Jacob, what's his last name?
Hornberger.
Forget it off the top of my head.
Jacob Hornberger.
Hornberger.
Yeah.
Jacob Hornberger will say, well, of course collateral damage happens in war. That's, but nuclear weapons should never be allowed. Okay, well, you've lost the moral argument by allowing collateral damage in any form. If you wanted to maintain the moral high ground, you had to say that collateral damage is never acceptable in any way, shape, or form at any time. There are no laws of war. There are only these immutable laws of nature that we adhere to that, is the NAP and nothing else. But the problem, of course, with that, my argument is that inevitably leads to pacifism, in which case I believe it's suicidal. Pacifism to me is, again, if you're not going to fight back, you're essentially saying, come and take it, but I won't, I'm not actually going to fight you if you do come and take it. Meaning, molon leve, come and take it, but take it all, have whatever you want. I'm not going to fight back because there's a chance if I fight back, I might harm a third party. And if I harm a third party, well, shucks, I've just broken the NAP. People who are in desperate existential fights for their existence, fights for their existence and for the existence of their communities, for their neighbors, they aren't sitting around thinking, well, am I going to hurt an innocent baby in Hiroshima or Nagasaki? I don't think that's really not the top of their concerns. Was Imperial Japan attacking mainland United States? They were, and a lot of libertarians don't even know that. When you start to dig into the nitty gritty, the Japan. If you've never seen Man in the High Castle, Japan had plans to carve up the Western United States. Japan was sending submarines to the West Coast. They were attacking the mainland United States. San Diego, Los Angeles. There were attacks by Japanese submarines on the west coast of the United States. There were German submarines that were attacking the east coast of the United States. But they were sending these balloons with explosives attached to them. There were civilians killed in the United States, in Oregon, by Japanese bomb balloons that had been sent over on the jet stream that they had put up into the air that came over here and landed. Women and children were being killed in the mainland United States by Japanese balloons that were sent from mainland Japan. Prisoners of war were being, innocent civilians were being killed by the Japanese every single day. So at its heart, the question of the nuke is, if you're talking about collateral damage, is, are the people are our people more valuable or are their people more valuable? And to the libertarian, the pure anarchist libertarian, all lives are absolutely 100% immutably equal. But that's not how we treat our families, right? If I have a family member, am I going to risk, my 308, round going through the wall and possibly going and, hurting a neighbor if I can kill a robber and save my family member at the same time? Yeah, for sure. That's a risk that I'm willing to take. And with the laws of war, as they're understood, the legal framework of war, I don't believe that nuclear weapons are unjustified according to that framework. Again, if you're a pure pacifist, nuclear weapons are not allowed. Again, if you're someone who is a pure anarchist at heart, I don't know how you even justify banning any weapon, because again, how is an anarchist going to say we're going to ban weapons? It seems like a short trip from banning nukes to banning AR-15s.
Oh no, I'm
right. So these are a lot of moral questions.
I'm actively pro tactical nuke, so you know what I mean.
Well, see, there you go. So the problem, of course. So the question there is if you have an unstable nuclear device in your hands, there is a certain amount of scientific knowledge that is required in order for you to maintain that nuclear weapon.
Sure.
Let's say it wasn't a nuke. Take away the nuke question. Let's say you have a biological weapon. Let's say you have VX gas or sarin gas or anthrax. If you do not maintain that weapon, it will eventually leak and it will eventually harm the community. So simply doing nothing, eventually your weapon will cause harm to other people. Right? An AR-15 is not the same. A nuke is similar. But the question is, how much risk in owning a weapon do you place on the community simply for owning the weapon? And certain weapons have different levels of danger that they pose to the community. But we should maintain nuclear weapons, not just because we might need them in an actual war against humans, but we might need them in a war against not humans, or there might be industrial uses for it. So I think that Murray Rothbard's advocacy for, the banning of nuclear weapons is wrongheaded. I think it's as wrongheaded as many, we signed nuclear treaties in the 1950s with the Soviets that are impinging on our ability to do proper space travel, right? The only feasible form of energy that we can think of to actually, power space flight right now is nuclear energy. And right now we're not allowed to create it because we entered into nuclear pacts in the 1950s. So I think a lot of the hippy-dippy 1960s, 1970s left-wing politics snuck its way into libertarian views. And I think that that's a big mistake, because I think that this is going to really get me in trouble. I think that the damage caused by the nuclear weapons was exaggerated to a large degree. And it's part of the reason why people don't like nuclear weapons today. And it's one of the reasons why we can't have nuclear energy today, because of those horrible events, which I wish could have been avoided, but don't start none, won't be none, has always been my motto.
All right. Well, I wasn't here to debate it, but I definitely wanted to hear your take on it, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rare Camilla, thanks a lot for the super chat. She said she just bought $5 clearance rum and will regret it. More importantly, where's my boy Calvin? Quest Fanny.
What's up, Camellia?
She works with the Liberty Republic with you, right? Isn't she?
She is the editor-in-chief.
That's what I thought. Okay, I met her at the Missouri State Convention for Libertarians. I was a speaker there. She's really nice. Quest Fanning.
She is a brilliant wordsmith.
Yeah, Quest Fanning, $5 super chat, said Rittenhouse had awesome muzzle control. Agreed.
What's up, Quest?
Craig, thanks for the $10 super chat. He's also an Iowa corn eater like me. He says, my father fought in Europe after the defeat of Germany. He was to go fight in Japan. The bombs ended the war. If not, I might not have been here. And one more super chat from Matthew Mahler. It was not enough to be not Hirohito. You must be anti-Hirohito. Okay, we're getting into this thing before we hop into this exclusive stream for a couple minutes. But I want to before we hopped on the show, we talked about the Freedom Ninja Army. Okay, now I have an awesome Freedom Ninja Army too, but it's just called the Mises Caucus. These are the people who have gotten my back and have gone on the interwebs and defended me and defended all these great libertarian thinkers who have been attacked by shitty blue-pilled crap libertarians for years. What happened, man? Where's the Freedom Ninja Army at these days?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because it was something that I think is one of those topics that we really need to discuss. It's not as sexy as the nuclear bomb, but it's definitely one of these topics that I think libertarians really need to be discussing. How to build healthy communities, because we have so many toxic communities in the liberty movement. And I think that these toxic communities are really dragging on our ability to try to have a bigger liberty movement. The day after I lost the U.S. Senate primary, there was another candidate in the race who, was way back at the back of the pack. Like, I was honored to just, take third place in a statewide primary. But I remember there was this gentleman, his name was Cortland Sykes. And, we fought during the primary, we were opponents. And yeah. And I ended up respecting him. And eventually, we became friends. After the day after the primary was over, I called all the candidates and said, hey, congratulations. You ran a good campaign. I hope we stay in touch, and I wish you the best of luck in the future. Just as a gesture. I even did that for Josh Hawley, just as a gesture of goodwill. And Cortland, asked, if I had any advice, for next time if he did it again. And his people, more than ever, reminded me a little bit of some of the people that worked on my presidential campaign, not officially, but just online, and that they were just throwing poo at anyone and everything, for whatever reason, taking offense at absolutely everything and being hateful, rude, just poisonous, venomous to everyone and everything for any reason whatsoever. And I talked to Cortland about the lessons that I learned from my presidential campaign, which is that it's important. The candidate has to build, the leader, if you will, needs to be responsible in maintaining a healthy community. I talk about it like in the form of like tilling a garden. If you plant seeds, if you plant a garden and you plant, you can plant the highest quality tomatoes, you can plant the highest quality jalapenos, and you can plant a beautiful garden filled with flowers. But if you don't tend that garden, it's going to grow with weeds. And those weeds are going to choke out the flowers. And those weeds will absolutely destroy your crops. You might get a few tomatoes at the end of the grow season, but one thing is guaranteed, that if you do not take care of that garden and maintain that garden, you will lose the possibilities of a beautiful garden by the end of grow season because you did not maintain that garden. And I like to look at that as like liberty communities, right? The Freedom Ninja Army was a Facebook group, had about 10,000 or so people in it and stuff. And I chose to archive it the other day because for so long it had grown up with weeds. It was toxic. People were hateful. I started the group and people were like, Austin Petersen sucks. And I'm just kind of like, oh God, okay, well, who are these people? I don't even know any of these people anymore, right? And so I was like, I saw that people were mistreating one another, being hateful to one another. So I archived that group and I said, everybody, let's go over to Team Liberty on Facebook and we'll have a smaller group that I can actually help maintain. I can tend this garden because I think it's so, yeah, we're going to fight with each other. Yeah, Mises Caucus is going to take out the Prague Caucus and, you're going to have these battles to the death. But I mean, where are the leaders who are building healthy communities, right? Where are the leaders who are breeding positive communities that want to bring people in? A good example I could say for this was back in 2008 or 9, I was in Washington, D.C., and, Adam Kokesh and I are like putting up "End the Fed" posters all over Washington, D.C. We're like, smoking weed, we're hardcore, "End the Fed," and we set up these rallies for "End the Fed" around the country. And, small turnouts here and there, angry speakers, and the Fed, and we got a certain amount of people who would identify with that and show up. But one day I suggested to the heads of the meetup groups, that's what we had back then, meetup groups. I'm showing how I'm a geriatric millennial. Yeah. I suggested to the heads of meetup, let's change the name of these groups from "End the Fed" to "Sunlight into the Federal Reserve." We tripled the number of activists who participated it was almost overnight. Unbelievable how much more positive campaigning, what an impact it had on people's hearts and minds versus what was going on in the hatefulness. And I saw that in my own campaign. My presidential campaign, I was much more of a fighter, much more, and you could say that was more high profile than my Senate campaign, but goddamn, it's President of the United States, dude. I mean, come on. Of course that's going to get more attention. But with my Senate campaign, I really refined the art of the positive campaign, right? Because I already had so many negatives going against me. People were going to be attacking me with negativity. One of the things people attack me on, is, Austin, you aren't married, or Austin, you are not religious, right? So, but rather than, attack people's religion, right, I found ways to connect with religious people in a positive way that attracted them to my campaign. And, I would challenge any libertarian to try and get 55,000 votes in a statewide Republican Party primary of similar size. That's not easy, especially when you're non-religious, especially when you were formerly libertarian, especially when you believe in things like gay marriage or what have you, right? Legalization of weed in a red state that's, very much full of, Christian conservatives. It's no small feat. And in a primary especially, but, the Libertarian Party, presidential campaign is a convention. You only got to convince 1,000 people, right? In a statewide primary, you got to convince 175,000 people to show up for you, right? It's completely different. The power of positive campaigning cannot be written off. We as libertarians, we thrive on fear and rage and hate just as much as many people in the main parties do, including people who are successful in the main parties. But from what I see many times, the people who get on successful campaigns or who run successful campaigns have positive messages that rally people to their cause, that get them united. I mean, let's look at Georgia, the Ossoff and Warner, right? They had more positive messages than their Republican counterparts did. I mean, all the candidates in those races were trash. Shane Hazel was in there trying, he caused the runoff. But people are attracted to positive campaigns and positive communities. And the only way you're going to have positive campaigns is if you have healthy communities. So the Freedom Ninja Army Facebook page was shut down in order so that I could have the ability to foster a more healthy community of liberty activists. And the Team Liberty isn't even the only Facebook, group that I run. There are some secret groups that are even smaller that I'm a part of, that we, work together, we stay in contact, and we try to support one another, right? Whether it's financially or whether it's emotionally and things like that. I would highly recommend for anyone, that I think this is a good way to kind of end this, the main segment. For anyone who hears what I'm saying right now and believes me and thinks, wow, how can I sort of add to my repertoire? How can I change myself? How can I find out more information about this and find a framework to base my activism on the future that's more positive? Here's what I will recommend to you. If you're one of the 10 people out there maybe who's listening who thinks that way right now, because I guarantee you there's a lot more people who are listening to me, hearing me now, than are people who are going to take action on what I'm suggesting. But for those of you who are listening and who are got the pen and paper, who are ready to type this down, here's what I would say. You need to read Morton Blackwell, Laws of the Public Policy Process. You can find a free copy of that on the American Conservative Union's Leadership Institute website. And in it, it has for you the power of positive campaigning, how to build a campaign that's tough, strong, but positive. Because right now, we don't have a healthy community, liberty community. Back in the Ron Paul days, 2008, 2012, we were very optimistic. We were very positive. We were very self-reinforcing. If somebody needed help in the liberty community, there was a group of people who were there to help them. We don't have that anymore. That's what we have to rebuild. That's what we're missing. The positive campaigning and the healthy sense of community, that's the only thing I think that can save us in the future, because the American people largely hate us. The two main political parties hate us. The factions hate us, and we hate each other. If we don't love each other and treat each other well, why should anybody else do that? When other people see us treating each other the way we treat each other, they have no reason to treat us well either. And so that's my last piece of advice for people who are listening, who want to build a healthier community. Read the laws of the public policy process, apply them to your fight for liberty, and I think you will do better.
Yeah, awesome, man. We're definitely at the end of this thing before we hop into this exclusive chat for a minute. Hey, Austin, do you have any plans of running for office in the near future?
I'm not going to say no, because I think, it's not impossible. Like, mayor of Lowman, Missouri, I could run for, some small office one day, and then that'd make me a liar if I said no. The reason I ran for president in 2016 was because there was an opportunity for a normal guy like myself. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were weird, and they were hated, and they're obnoxious and disliked by a majority of their constituency. And I saw Rand Paul was not doing well. And so I thought, hey, here's an opportunity to spend the next year of my life just being myself and standing out by being a principled citizen who is, normal and rational and, not obnoxious and friendly and warm. And that was that opportunity. But running for office, it really is about the timing. What is the timing? You have to be able to tell when is a good time for you to actually put your name in the ring. And some people are cut out for running for office, and some people aren't. And I don't know if I'm cut out for running for office. I'm not going to take people like Andy Craig's advice on whether or not I should. Right? I'm not going to listen to people like that. But there may come a day when, the bat signal comes up and I see the opportunity is as ripe like I did in 2016, and that could happen. I won't write that off. So I'll say maybe.
Cool. Hey, Austin, where can all these wonderful people find you at, sir? How can they support you?
You know what people should do? The most fun you can ever have with Austin Petersen, these days is to go and to follow my news radio broadcast, my morning show. If you are looking for something when you're getting ready for the day, you like to listen to the news and tune in and tune out and have fun. The KWOS morning show, my radio broadcast, is not only is it like news from a Liberty angle, but we do karaoke. We're goofing off talking about, silly things, listening to music. And, it's a 3-hour morning broadcast Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. If you don't like a lot of distractions while you're listening, or like you don't like a lot of distractions while you're doing stuff in the morning, you just want to listen to something in the background, download the app on your phone. Just type in KWOS on your iPhone or your Android. But if you want to get more involved, if you like interacting like this, like a podcast like this, then I would highly recommend the Facebook live stream because it is legit. It is lit. There's like a bunch of cool, fun people in there who are weird, who are funny, who are making, sexual jokes and innuendos at 6 a.m. in the morning, which is actually kind of weird and funny. There's a lot of attractive women in that group who are making jokes, and things like that, which, is always rare to find libertarian women in anywhere in the communities. So, there's just a lot of good reasons to join the live stream. So if you go to the Facebook page, the KWOS Morning Show with Austin Petersen and John Marsh Facebook page, then you just click like, follow the, get alerts for the live stream that happens Monday through Friday. And that's the best way to interact because it's fun. Your comments get posted up on the stream. It's terrestrial radio. People are calling in, texting, it's professional talk radio. And, you're actually impacting. My listeners are mostly people who are conservatives, and I'm the outlier as a libertarian. So if you want to make an impact, right, like being a part of that community, you're actually like influencing conservative minds towards libertarian policies, which I think is a good form of activism, while it's kind of a passive form of activism rather than a real active form of activism. And it's just a lot of fun. So the KWOS morning show, radio, daily radio show is the best way. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, AP for Liberty, dank memes, live streams, all that fun stuff.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Austin. Have to get up to Missouri and grab a beer or a whiskey with you sometime since you're just a couple hours away. But I will see you here in about 2.5 minutes for the exclusive stream.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, brother. All right, guys, another awesome episode of Break the Cycle. I appreciate you sticking around with me on a Friday night. Guys, go check out the Patreon, the Subscribe Star, or become a channel member so you can come and hang out in these exclusive streams. I think this is going to be the 15th exclusive live stream that we've done now. We got people like Tom Woods in there, Maj Touré. I mean, there's some really cool stuff. And I actually got Tom Woods to say the F word the other night. So you're really missing out on that if you're not watching these exclusive streams. But you get them live if you become a channel member, but you get them on Patreon or Subscribe Star the next day. So Patreon or Subscribe Star / Break the Cycle JS, or just join under any video here to become a member of the channel. As a member of the channel, you'll get awesome little hand-drawn emojis that you get to use in these fire live chats. So if you're watching it makes sense if you're watching the shows a lot to be a member of the channel. But if you ask my patrons, I'm always trying to add new things. I added the exclusive content after they, some of them have gotten some swag. I'm looking at Christmas presents for everybody. So everybody's going to be getting cool stuff from me if you sign up and support the show and my 70,000 kids. Guys, make sure to check out our sponsors at Lorenzotti.coffee for all your delicious Italian coffee needs delivered directly to your door. Bring the taste of Italy home. Use BTC at checkout for a 10% discount. Of course, TopLobster.com, the man, the myth, the legend, where you can get this great Tower Gang shirt I'm wearing tonight. Use BTC at checkout for a 10% discount, or join Patreon or the channel, or join the Subscribe Star and get in the Discord where you get new Top Lobster designs 2 weeks before they hit the general population at a 30% discount. So really, if you're one of the lower tier subscribers, it really makes sense because it's paying for itself if you're buying Top Lobster's gear. And of course, executive producers of the show, AnthemPlanning.com, for all your emergency and crisis planning needs. Check them out today. See what they can do for your business, home, or personal life. They're doing a job the government sucks at much more cheap and much more efficiently. Guys, coming up on the show next week, as you know, we don't do Saturday and Sunday shows, but next week on Monday, Ron Coleman, famed lawyer Ron Coleman, will be on the show on Monday. He's based. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a good time. On Tuesday, my good friend Mike Rufo from New Jersey will be on the show. This man is a badass. He's one of my favorite people. Wednesday, we're going to have Dan Taxation is Theft Berman. I hope he brings the hat. It's not going to fit in the framing. It's going to be really funny to try. On Thursday, we're going to have a talk about anarchism, liberty, and religion with my friend Jacob Winograd, also who is an executive producer of the show. That's going to be fun. And on Friday, based Eric Matheny is going to be on the show, also a lawyer, a little different than Ron. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a good time. I appreciate you guys sticking around. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Please join us in these exclusive chats if you can. I will see you on Monday for the show with Ron Coleman. But until then, don't forget to break the cycle.
Due to legal reasons, I just have to explain. The lyrics of my last song may seem to contain a violent call to action in the verse and refrain, but I just meant it in Minecraft. The helicopter part was in reference to GTA 5 and the things you do. So when any violence you commit, I am not an excuse, because I just meant it in Minecraft. But Chipper is my friend and he's constantly cold. Accusations of incitement getting totally old. Make your own choices, yeah, you have control, because I just meant it in Minecraft. Obviously, I would never advocate force, unless there's due process and a trial, of course. And if you're convicted, we will make you a corpse in Minecraft, just in Minecraft. Nothing I mean, you know it.